Hello, Robs. We're back with We Gather Together, the story of Thanksgiving by Ralph and Adelin Linton. We are now aided by this kid. His face on a cell phone. I don't know where I picked him up out of some book. Chapter 3, The English Harvest Home. In England, special significance was attached to the last load of the grain brought home. The reapers and their friends and sweethearts, wearing garlands of flowers and ribbons, accompanied the load from field to barn, singing and making merry on the way. After this last load was safely stored, the harvest home supper was held. Robert Herrick's famous poem, The Hock Cart, describes an occasion of this kind for 17th century England. The Hock Cart, or harvest home. Come, sons of summer, by whose toil we are the lords of wine and oil, by whose tough labors and rough hands we rip up first, then reap our lands. Crowned with the ears of corn, now come, and to the pipe sing harvest home. Come forth, my lord, and see the cart, dress up with all the country art. See, here a mawkin, there a sheet, as spotless, pure as it is sweet. The horses, mares, and frisking fillies, clad all in linen, white as lilies. The harvest swains and wenches bound for joy to see the hock cart crowned. About the cart, hear how the rout of rural younglings raise the shout, pressing before some coming after, those with a shout and these with laughter. Some bless the cart, some kiss the sheaves, some prank them up with oaken leaves, some cross the fill horse, some with great devotion stroke the home-born wheat, while other rustics, less attent to prayers than to merriment, run after their breeches rent. Well, on, brave boys, to your lord's hearth, glittering with fire, where for your mirth you shall see first the large and chief foundation of your feast, fat beef, with upper stories mutton, veal, and bacon, which makes full the meal, with several dishes standing by, as here a custard, there a pie, and here all tempting frumenty, and for to make the merry cheer. If smirking wine be wanting here, there's that which drowns all care, stout beer, which freely drink to your lord's health, then to the plough, the commonwealth. Next to your flails, your fanes, your vats, then to the maids with wheaten hats, to the rough sickle and crooked scythe. Drink, frolic boys, till all be blithe. Feed and grow fat, and as ye eat, be mindful that the laborin nest as you Be mindful that the labyrinth neat as you may have their fill of meat, and know besides ye must revoke the patient oxen to the yoke, and all go back into the plough and harrow, though they hanged up now. And you must know your Lord's word true. Feed him ye must, whose food fills you, and that this pleasure is like rain, not sent ye for to drown your pain, but for to make it spring again. In Sussex, the last load was called the Horky Cart, and the harvest home feast was the Horky. Robert Bloomfield's poem, The Horky, describes this feast. And they want you to know that he was an English poet, 1766 to 1823. This poem was based on nostalgic memories of his boyhood on a farm in Suffolk. Home came the jovial, horky load, last of the whole year's crop, and grace amongst the green boughs rode, right plump upon the top. Now Mrs. Cherum's best lace cap was mounted on her head. Guests at the door began to rap, and now the cloth was spread. And Farmer Cherum went, good man, and broached the horky beer, and stitch a mort of folks began to eat up our good cheer. Said he, thank God for what's before us, that thus we meet again. The mingling voices like a chorus joined cheerfully. Amen. Welcome in plenty, there they found 'em. The ribs of beef grew light, and puddings till the boys go round 'em, and then they vanished quite. Now all the guests with Farmer Crowder began to prate of corn, and we found out they talked the louder, the oftener passed the horn. Out came the nuts, we set a crackin', the ale came round our way. By gom, we women fell a clackin', as loud again as they. John sung old Benbow loud and strong, and I, the constant swain. Cheer up, my lads, was Simon's song, we'll conquer them again. And 12 o'clock was drawing nigh, and all in merry queue. I knocked the cast. Oh, said I, we've almost conquered you. My lord begged round and held his hat. Says Farmer Gruff, says he, there's many a lord, Sam, I know that, has begged as well as thee. Bump in his hat, the shillings tumbled all round among the folks. Laugh if you will, said Sam, and mumbled, you pay for all your jokes. These last verses refer to the custom of passing the harvest cheer, as each man sang a song, and the Lord was the reaper who cut the last grain, and was privileged to be Lord of the harvest, and collect his fees from all the guests. A similar harvest home supper for England in the early 19th century is described in chapter 53 of George Eliot's Adam Bede. As Adam was going homewards, he saw in the distance the last load of barley winding its way toward the yard gate of the Hall farm, and heard the chant of harvest home rising and sinking like a wave. The work he had to do at home, besides putting on his best clothes, made it 7 before he was on his way again to the Hall farm, and it was questionable whether, with his longest and quickest strides, he should be there in time, even for the roast beef, which came after the plum pudding, for Miss Poyser's supper would be punctual. Great was the clatter of knives and pewter, plates and tin cans when Adam entered the house. It was a goodly sight, the table with Martin Poyser's round, good-humored face at the head of it, helping his servants to the fragrant roast beef, and pleased when the empty plates came again. Martin, though usually blessed with a good appetite, really forgot to finish his own beef tonight. It was so pleasant to him to look on in the intervals of carving and see how the others enjoyed their supper, for were they not men who, on all the days of the year except Christmas and Sundays, ate their cold dinner in a makeshift manner under the hedgerows, and drank their beer out of wooden bottles? Martin Poyser had some faint conception of the flavor such men must find in hot roast beef and fresh drawn ale. But now the roast beef was finished and the cloth drawn, leaving a fair deal table for the bright drinking cans, and the foaming brown jugs and the bright brass candlesticks, pleasant to behold. Now the great ceremony of the evening was to begin, the harvest song in which every man must join. He might be in tune if he likes to be singular, but he must not sit with closed lips. The movement was obliged to be in triple time. The rest was libium. Ad libium. Ceres or Demeter from a Pompeian wall painting. No, looks like we're going to get a bunch of sketches here. Series with 2 peasants from a medieval miniature painting depicting sowing and reaping. He who plants the seeds early shall reap the gold at the opportune hour. I think these are more engravings. Harvest festival in Poland showing the cock of the harvest. Harvest home at Hawkesbury on Cotswold. The landing of the Pilgrim Fathers. Is this a new chapter or no? The landing of the Pilgrim Fathers. The breaking waves dashed high on a stern and rock-bound coast, and the woods against the stormy sky their giant branches tossed, and the heavy night hung dark, the hills and waters o'er, when a band of exiles moored their bark on the wild New England shore. Not as the conqueror comes, they, the true-hearted, came, not with the roll of stirring drums and the trumpet that sings of fame, not as the flying come, in silence and in fear. They shook the depths of the desert's gloom with their hymns of lofty cheer. Amidst the storm they sang, and the stars heard in the sea, and the sounding aisles of the dim wood rang to the anthems of the free. The ocean eagle soared from his nest by the white waves' foam, and the rocking pines of the forest roared. This was their welcome home. There were men with hoary hair amidst the pilgrim band. Why had they come to wither there, away from their childhood's land? There was woman's fearless eye, lit by her deep love's truth. There was manhood's brow serenely high, and the fiery heart of youth. What sought they thus afar? Bright jewels of the mine. The wealth of seas, the spoils of war, they sought a faith's pure shrine. Ay, call it holy ground, the soil where first they trod. They have left unstained what there they found, freedom to worship God. Felicia Dorothea Hemans. And we end this chapter, and we'll move on next time to Squanto, a neglected hero. Chapter 3 wasn't much of a chapter. It was mostly just, basically, was 2 poems, slight commentary, and then another poem, and then a fiction book entry. Anyway, that's not much of a historical chapter there, but we got some poetry out of it and some literature. All right, goodbye, bruv.